Was this foretold in the book of Revelation? Hey guys, Britt here. Welcome to End Times Bible Prophecy. In this video, we're going to talk about certain technological developments we're witnessing right now, how they'll completely transform the world, and why these technologies ultimately will be unstoppable, giving the one who controls them complete power over the entire earth. But first, I want to turn your attention to this right here. This is from yesterday on brittgillette.substack.com. It's the #1 most overlooked sign of the second coming. And Jesus said, once this happens, then the end will come. And we're seeing this right now. Now, this is distinct from the #1 overall sign of the second coming, which is convergence, meaning all the individual signs Jesus and the prophets said to look for emerging and converging in our day and time, which they are. But this addresses one of those signs that we're seeing, and it's one that I believe is completely overlooked by a number of people. I just completely take it for granted. So make sure to check that out over at brittgillette.substack.com. Now back to, was this foretold in the book of Revelation? What am I talking about? Well, let's look at this right here. So this is from Revelation chapter 13, verses 4 through 7. It says, they worshiped the dragon for giving the beast such power, and they also worshiped the beast. Who is as great as the beast? They exclaimed. Who is able to fight against him? Then the beast was allowed to speak great blasphemies against God, and he was given authority to do whatever he wanted for 42 months. And he spoke terrible words of blasphemy against God, slandering his name and his dwelling, that is, those who dwell in heaven. And the beast was allowed to wage war against God's holy people and to conquer them, and he was given authority to rule over every tribe and people and language and nation. So here we read about the Antichrist being given authority to rule over everyone on the face of the earth, and the people of the world marveling at him and saying, who is able to fight against him? And guys, I believe we're seeing the technologies being developed right now that will make all of this possible. We've talked in the past about biomimetic drone swarms. These are swarms that mimic nature, and technologies such as AI being onboarded onto those drone swarms, quantum computing, increasing the processing power and the development of these types of things. And then, of course, molecular manufacturing, which would enable these to be deployed at scale. But first, let's take a step back. When most people, when you talk about drone swarms, they think of this right here. So they think of a bunch of quadcopters in a clump going to an area. That's a drone swarm. What we're talking about here and what is coming, what does not exist yet but is coming, are this type of drone swarm. So this is an actual swarm of bees, but one day this will be under computer control and over man-made control similar to these, and it will be directed against enemies. And we went over some of this in this article from earlier this month, AI, drone swarms, and the end times, where we showed examples of what they're building right now. Again, it's not these, but things like these mosquitoes that are actually drones. We see ants, or creatures that are much like ants. Again, these are the types of drones we're talking about. Drones that look like birds, drones that look like fish, and they have these things, and they're already out there. And we already see the sophistication of these drones that can go through wooded areas and navigate trees. So imagine trying to escape from a swarm of these types of things. But again, these are quadcopters. These are very rudimentary. I believe this video is 3 or 4 years old at this point. And I believe it was a bunch of college students in China that put this together. So this is not the most sophisticated thing that we would see on the market. So guys, what we're going to see coming is much more sophisticated drone swarms. And once we have a leading power or group of nations that develops molecular manufacturing, that will enable them to deploy these types of drones at scale. So you would have much more sophisticated, powerful drones similar to a swarm of bees or a swarm of locusts that would be able to be manufactured very inexpensively at scale, very rapidly, maybe even on the battlefield in real time. And so when I talk about this, this actually leads to the necessitation of a global empire. Because whoever develops this capability first, it would overturn MAD. We've been through videos on why this would be. So go back and check out some of those previous videos if you want more of an overview of this. But mutual assured destruction will no longer be in place when that happens. We will see a World War III, and it will end in victory, not in the annihilation of human civilization, but it will end in victory for whatever power is in control of these technologies. And so that's what we're looking at. I believe that that is likely to be the Antichrist at that point, but it's not a matter of will it be used to conquer the world or will they allow a second power? No, to allow a second power to emerge, a competing power with these types of technologies, once molecular manufacturing is achieved, would be suicide. That would lead to the annihilation of the human race. And so whoever develops this will use it to create a global empire, conquer the world. Now, I've had a whole bunch of people reach out to me with questions saying, well, I'm seeing some of these other videos that they have a solution for drones. And we've addressed this as well in a past article, but I want to look at this in a video too, so we can talk about it. I think it helps better illustrate why that is not the case, because we're seeing things like this. So we're seeing this, Epirus is this company that's released this Leonidas high-powered microwave. And so we're seeing directed energy weapons often being touted as the solution to drone swarms. And so here's an example of one. This is the system that they've put together. This is going to take out drones. So here we have all of these drones being launched, and the alert goes out. What are we going to do now? We have this incoming drone swarm. So now we've turned to the direction from which they're coming, and look, they're swarming everywhere. Let's fire some missiles at them, and they're completely ineffective. Just as we've always said, it's like firing a shotgun at some bees or something. It's not going to work. But now here comes this high-powered microwave, right? And it shoots out and it just drops all of these things to the ground. Look at that, Epirus, right? It works. And I've had a lot of people point to this and say, well, no, this means drones are going to come to nothing because look at that. Look at how it just blasts them out of the air. But I want to stop right there for just a second and point out there's a number of problems with this. So this is a video that's put out to sell the product to the Pentagon, and I believe, unfortunately, it's working because this is not a solution to a problem that we're going to have probably right now or in the foreseeable future. It might be a solution to a problem a decade ago. But this assumes all of these drones come right at the target. They're just running. You saw how fast they were coming. They're racing toward this military installation through this heavily forested area, but over top of it. So there's no surprise. There's a clear view of what's coming. It's only coming from one direction, which is very important to underline. There's no thought process. There's no, some of these drones don't come at once and say, hey, wait, those just got zapped. Let's hold back and let's go try another route. So again, this is fighting a threat that really isn't the threat. And there's a bunch of problems we're going to unpack with these types of directed energy weapons. But again, let's look at the Epirus website. So if you go to their homepage, you'll see this little animation they have here. So here you have one of those systems we just looked at. Then there's another over here, and then they have this drone that can shoot also high-powered microwaves at the incoming drones. But again, there's a bunch of problems that I would point out with this. One is, okay, if this quadcopter can shoot its little microwaves like it does right here, look at that. It's coming over. Shooting them all down. Why can't these do the same to that. And then I would also point out, well, why are they all coming from one direction? And notice how they're just sort of lazily coming. It's one line. Why aren't they coming? What happens when they come from over here, back here, under here, from straight down? There's got to be a range on these weapons. They don't go on indefinitely. That range is classified, and there's a reason why it's classified, because it isn't indefinite. If it was indefinite, then you don't know what friendly things you might hit. Let's say, for instance, let's say that some of these drones decided we're going to come in behind this one. You said, no problem. Well, this one will turn and shoot them. Okay, well, then it turns and shoots, and not only does it take out the drones, it takes out this countermeasure, right? So friendly fire is completely ignored here because this is the ideal scenario or the ideal battlefield conditions. And all of these things come from one direction over and over and over again. They don't learn on the battlefield, which as AI is more and more onboarded to drones and powering drones, you're going to see AI learning on the battlefield. So there is a range to these weapons. AI will learn what that range is, and these drones will stop outside of that range. They'll recognize this for what it is, and this for what it is, and this for what it is, and they will stop outside that range, and then they'll spread out, and they'll come from this direction, and this direction, and this direction, and there's no way that this can fire in all directions at once. And even if it could, assuming it's protecting a military installation, well, if it fires behind itself, if it's on the perimeter of that military installation, it's going to hit a whole bunch of friendly assets, which are the very targets of the incoming drones. So it would actually do the job of the drones for it. And if you say, well, then we'll just surround the entire perimeter with these things, well, again, it can come from above. There are so many different holes in such a defense that would be found out and exploited. And that's only if you're guarding a stationary military installation. If you have forward committed personnel that are trying to take a target, let's say we could say we're going to take this hill over here and you're moving, you can't have these things ideally placed ahead of time. If a drone swarm is coming in that can act and innovate and learn in real time, these antiquated systems are no different than the tanks that are being destroyed all over the battlefield in Russia-Ukraine right now, in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. So this is really a system that's going to be worthless if the United States hopefully doesn't buy many of these systems, because they're completely worthless. And so is this right here. We see this is, well, lasers will shoot down the drones with lasers. So this is one laser on the back of this. The rest of that is tracking, and it shoots up at this. Okay, look at that. It took the drone down. Okay, great. It took down one drone with the one laser beam it has. That's a great thing to have, say, a decade ago, but now you're going to see bigger and bigger and bigger swarms. So shooting one laser at a drone swarm is no different than me shooting one bullet at the bees that are chasing me. Maybe I'll get lucky and take out a bee, but that's not going to stop that swarm of bees from coming at me. And that's assuming that the laser is able to track that target for several seconds, because it's not instantaneous. This isn't Star Wars. It takes several seconds, up to 15 seconds, to cause the damage that makes the drone fall to the ground. But then also you're assuming, again, ideal conditions. There's no rain, there's no fog. So in heavy rain and fog, the lasers won't work. Again, there's a range to those lasers. Otherwise, who knows what's being hit beyond the immediate target you're aiming at if you miss. And then again, there's just one laser. And so you go, well, let's put a whole bunch of lasers out there. Well, that's just not very realistic. Again, look at what we're dealing with here. If we come back and look at this to put a whole bunch of these things out on the battlefield at once, it's not really, it's just not going to happen. And shooting multiple directions at once with lasers, again, these systems would have to be much more sophisticated than they are. And again, I would ask, one, what happens if the drones come from like 3 inches off of the ground at this thing? Can this thing fire downward as well? And at what point? And again, just as with the previous system we were looking at, what happens when you've got drones coming from all directions? This can only fire in one direction. So that's great if you've got one drone coming at you with plenty of lead time and you see it and you can focus on it and shoot it down. That's great. But what happens if you've got 10 drones coming from 10 different directions at the same time? Well, maybe it can shoot down one, maybe it can then turn and shoot a second one. And then it's too late. It's taken out by the others. And so this shows these systems are already obsolete and antiquated. Already, before they've even really been deployed on the battlefield. Because we really haven't seen these in actual battlefield conditions that I'm aware of. In the meantime, we're seeing the very things that I'm talking about. So this is from July 11th on Zero Hedge. It says, Russia unveils new tactic and latest drone swarms on Ukraine. So let's see what their new tactic is. It says it has now become the norm for hundreds of drones to be exchanged each night across the borders between Russia and Ukraine. In the overnight and into Thursday morning hours, again, this was early July, Russia once again sent some 400 drones into Ukraine. The attack also included close to 20 ballistic and cruise missiles. CNN and others who have correspondents on the ground have witnessed a new tactic in the war. Russia sent drones on the Ukrainian capital flying from all directions, in yet another effective effort at confusing and breaking past anti-air defenses. They were flying at all different altitudes and attacking from all directions, with some of the drones initially bypassing the capital before abruptly changing direction and speeding back toward the city. Who would have thought, right? No, you're supposed to send drones straight ahead from one direction at the same consistent speed. They don't stop, they don't pause, they don't move over here, so that we can shoot them with our directed energy weapon. Because it reminds me of the late 18th century. Hey, we're gonna put all of our personnel in bright red coats and we're going to march them in a line on the battlefield, and they'll come within 100 feet of the enemy who is also doing the same thing, and then we'll take turns firing at each other. And then you have the American Revolution, and the Americans say, well, we can't match up with that, but how about we just put some snipers in the trees and we take some of these guys out because they're walking around in bright red coats out in the open, and we mow them down, and we can attack from all different directions simultaneously. It's the same thing. These these ideas are obsolete before they're even being tried. And unfortunately, the United States is way behind on this. Saw this. This is just from Monday. This tweet went out, it got taken down, but it says, Army touting grenade-dropping drone shows just how alarmingly behind the curve it still is. The U.S. Army asked, have you ever seen a drone drop a grenade? Whoa, right? Well, yes, for, a long time now, well over a decade. This is not new, but the Army put out this tweet on Monday pretending that we're at the cutting edge of innovation here. We're really going to transform the battlefield. We'll have this quadcopter go up in the air and it'll drop a grenade down below. This backwards thinking is that the United States is being bypassed technologically in the military sphere. We're seeing that very clearly. But so many nations are going to be. Guys, the drone swarms that are coming, again, not these, but these. These drone swarms will be unstoppable when they come because they will be deployed using molecular manufacturing, and whoever develops that is going to use that first mover advantage to strike before someone else develops it as well. And because they can send wave after wave after wave, there will be no way to stand up against this. They will be unstoppable. You can shoot all the lasers you want. You can shoot these high-powered microwaves. You can drop nuclear bombs. But they will ruthlessly and efficiently carry out the objectives they've been given because they will be AI-powered. They will learn on the battlefield. They will learn what works and what doesn't. And they will ruthlessly carry out the tasks to which they were prompted to carry out. Similar to the AI chatbots and things that we see where they say, well, the AI is lying. No, the AI is simply achieving the goal it was prompted to achieve using any means it needs to. If that means lying, it'll do that. And the same here. These aren't going to follow the battlefield rules and say, oh, well, we're going to come at you from one direction and we'll fly right into your directed energy weapon. You know, we won't stop short. We won't flank off into several different groups, come at you from above, below, every side. Now, that's what's coming, guys. It will be unstoppable. We are on the cusp in the years ahead. I don't know when this is going to happen, but once we see molecular manufacturing developed, it will quickly lead to global empire. It will be used by the nation or group of nations that develop it to conquer the globe and establish a global empire. And I'm unaware of where in the Bible it says that happens prior to the Antichrist kingdom, prior to the final beast empire we read about in the book of Daniel, in the book of Revelation. So guys, that to me tells me how close we are to the 7-year tribulation, the second coming of Jesus Christ at the end of the tribulation, and before that, the rapture of the church. So guys, we should be urgently sharing the gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ with as many people as we possibly can, because I believe time is short. So let me know what you think. Leave your comments below, and God willing, I'll see you on Friday.